Welcome back to the Fire Break. I'm Steve Wolf. As always, the Fire Break is sponsored by Team Wildfire, developing new techniques and technology to reduce wildland fatalities and property loss. I've got with me today Janet Ruiz, and Janet's with the Insurance Information Institute. The Insurance Information Institute is a kind of a information gathering and clearinghouse of information that helps insurance companies do their job better. Manage risk better, help their customers better, etc. Am I getting any of that right, Janet?
Yes, the
And,
other part of
welcome to the show. How are you?
well, thank you. It's good to be here. Triple I has been around for over 60 years, and while we work with the insurance companies, they're our members. We are a nonprofit, and our goal is to help the public understand insurance, what it does, how it works, and we do that with unique data that's trusted, that you can understand, these numbers are factual. This is what's happening. And we use those a lot to describe how insurance works and what's happening in the industry. Like right now, we're seeing rates going up around the country for homeowners and auto. Why is that happening? These type of things. We have real data that can help people understand it.
So why is it? And I, I'm imagining the insurance company is very impacted by what's going on with wildland fires, right?
Yes,
I mean, we're seeing
very much
companies pull
so.
out of entire states. So how can consumers better understand why that's happening and what they can do about it?
Well, it's important to understand your risk. And in the Western US, we certainly have a larger wildfire risk than we have in the past. Since 2017, we've seen more devastation to buildings, homes, communities than we had seen in the years past. And these
I
are
see.
costing, the insurance industry and the community so much money. So rebuilding, recovering, it's a big effort. Right now, it's not just wildfire, but it's all losses across the nation due to rising risk, like wildfire, but also due to rising costs. So, we're seeing inflation at the gas pumps, in our utility bills, medical costs, food costs when we go to the grocery store. But the rebuilding costs for buildings has outpaced inflation. And while inflation is starting to calm down, it hasn't gone below what it was before, and prices have not gone down at all. So we're only just starting to see the tip of the slowdown of inflation, but we're not seeing any decrease in our costs. And for that reason, for every premium dollar that we take in California over the last 10 years, we've paid out $1.08. So that's no profit,
Yeah,
that's
not a
minus
great business
profit.
model, but you make it up in the
No,
volume, right?
we don't.
You lose
And
money on every customer, right?
that's right.
That's,
And
yeah.
so the issue that we're handling right now is uh, trying to get the right premiums, and we call it an adequate premium. So we're not trying to make huge amounts of money. The insurance industry doesn't have big margins, unlike people may think. We don't. But we do need to have some profit margin. And so we're working very closely with the Department of Insurance on some things that could change that. A couple of really important issues are to be able to use forward-looking modeling. With the new technologies that are available, we can assess the risks that we're facing and price according to that, as well as the costs that insurance companies pay. We buy reinsurance. So
What
we'll
is
have
reinsurance?
reinsurance means um, we take on a certain amount of risk. So every company looks at their book of business and says, we can handle this dollar amount of risk overall. in the state for this year. And it's an annual exercise. And then we will buy reinsurance in case there's a catastrophe that makes it cost more than that amount we've settled on for our company. And so we pay for the reinsurance. Well, most states do allow you to use that cost of reinsurance in the rate making process. California does not. So we're asking and working with the Department of Insurance to make some changes that will make it affordable and profitable to do business in the state of California. You did mention earlier pulling out, and the interesting part is not very many companies have actually pulled out. What they have done is limited the amount of insurance that they're writing in this state. Some are not writing any new business. Some are non-renewing policies if they have too many policies in any given risk area, such as a wildfire risk area. So they're doing different things like that. But you know what? The good news is the insurance companies actually want to stay in California. It's the fourth largest insurance market in the world. It's a place we want to be. So that's why I say we're working with the Department of Insurance. We want to make this happen. We want to make it doable.
Yeah, and is getting more granular or higher resolution data on risk impacting this process? Because I would imagine, you shut off a whole area, you're denying yourself the opportunity to make money on some neighborhoods that probably would never burn.
We don't usually shut off whole areas. As far we call it spread of risk. So what's the normal process, and this is in all areas, and it's been always the practice in insurance, is you spread your risk. We saw after the Camp Fire in 2018, only one small insurance company went out of business. And they were a regional company that had written too many policies in the area that burned. So their loss was too big. They went insolvent. They were part of the California Guarantee Association, so the claims were paid out up to $500,000. But that's not what we want to happen with any company. And
Right.
the Department of Insurance also monitors companies to help them be solvent and make sure they are solvent. And we have rating agencies like AM Best and others who give ratings and kind of give red flags when you're getting towards being insolvent. So the regulations in that sense are very good. And companies do manage their book of business by this spread of risk. So no insurance company wants to have all the homes or businesses in any one particular area. You spread it out, and that way, if one area burns and another area doesn't, your risk is going to be manageable and you can pay your claims. And, we've talked about this. Some of the companies put out really good statements when they were talking about the restrictions that they're putting on right now. It's to protect the policyholders that they have right now. So if they're not writing new business or they're non-renewing some of the ones where they have too many in any one particular area that's risky, that's to protect the policyholders that they do have, so that when there's a loss, they can pay those claims. So it's a very important balance, and we take it very seriously in the insurance industry.
To help me back up a little bit with a more consumer-focused view of what you're discussing. I spoke with Stu Korn last week, and he said that most people who purchase insurance really don't know what they're buying. That the policies are, thick, obtuse, dense legalese, and really not written the way you would write something if you wanted people to understand it. And yet, because people understand it, they don't buy enough of it, and that most people are in fact underinsured, thinking that the game is to try to figure out how to get the lowest premium you can, rather than try to get the best coverage that you may end up needing. What's the industry doing to try to make the purchase process and the product itself more transparent?
Insurance is an interesting product that people never really wanted to think about. It was something that you bought, when you buy a home at the last minute, you're going into closing and they go, "Oh, hey, I think you can get insurance from, this agent down the street. We'll help you get a policy." That's not the case anymore in any risk areas. So wildfire in the West, hurricanes, there's risk all over the country. Now realtors are saying you need to find insurance before we go to closing. So people are paying a little more attention to it. Some of the reasons why it's not understandable is because we have a lot of litigation. And we actually have a whole campaign on third-party litigation funding. There's, large groups of people who make their living off disputing and litigating insurance claims. So we all pay for that in our insurance premium, and we also pay for it in the language that's in our insurance policies. But we are really working towards making them more understandable. We've even seen some new comers to the market who are using, a little more understandable terminology. There's some really good websites. Triple I tries to work on that. That's part of what we do. We don't lobby. We really are here to inform the public. So we do spend a lot of time. We actually just produced a great handbook with the National Association of Realtors and the Insurance Information Institute on insurance for home buyers. And it's very easy to understand. I'll send you the link if you'd like
Please,
to
thank
put
you.
that in with the information for this broadcast. And it does mention wildfire along with other risks people face. It talks about the importance of understanding how much would it cost to rebuild my home, either the one that I already own or the one that I'm purchasing, because it depends on what the local contractors are charging. It depends on what the wood costs right now, or the cement siding if you're in a wildfire risk area. So those costs are what determine how much it's going to cost to rebuild your home. Many insurance companies will have some basic tool that you can use, but your home, if it's upgraded, if you have specialty items in it. So you have to take the responsibility to really look at your home. And then I always recommend call a local contractor. Almost everybody at least has a friend who's a contractor or a friend of a friend, and ask, what's the average cost per square foot to build right now? And then really think about that. Okay, well, the average cost is $400 or $500 a square foot. My home is a little more fancy than that, or my home is a little more basic than that. So I'm going to insure for $350 a square foot, or I'm going to insure for $600 or $700 a square foot. You also know your area better. Like, I know that in order to rebuild my house, it was built in 1979 and it's on a regular foundation. But if I go to rebuild it now, the building codes in the area would require me to build it 6 feet off the ground. It's going to be a little more expensive, right? So I
Sure.
have 50% building code upgrade included in my policy. So
I see.
say I had a $500,000 coverage A, that's how much money I have to rebuild the structure. I now get another $250,000 for all the building code upgrades. In California, I'd have to rebuild with solar. I'd have to rebuild with sprinklers. I have the flood issue, and we also have earthquake retrofitting. So, a lot of new building codes. If you live in a wildfire risk area in California, you have to rebuild to code 7A, which is the wildfire code, the WUI code, to rebuild your home. And all these are
So that's
good building codes. We have way stronger homes. They're less likely to burn, less likely to flood, less likely to shake off their foundation. So the building codes are great, but that's one that I'm constantly talking to people about. Look at, because 1979 to me doesn't sound that old. It's not like 1906 or, some historical home. But it was before a lot of the good building codes came in. And then the other coverage that most insurance companies already include in the policies is called extended replacement cost. And what we see is after any type of catastrophe like a wildfire, there's a demand surge. So now we have,
right.
In Paradise, 18,000 homes need to be rebuilt. All the prices go up even more in that situation. We saw that in the Woolsey fires in Southern California, the Thomas fire, all the
The Marshall Fire, right,
Marshall
where
fire in
1,000 homeowners
Colorado.
all need their
Yeah.
homes rebuilt. Yeah.
So now there's a shortage of contractors, maybe a shortage of supplies, so it all costs more. So the extended replacement cost, usually companies offer anywhere between 15 and 30% extra for demand surge. So if you get in that situation, you will have that extra. So let's talk our 500,000. If we got 250,000 extra for the building code upgrade, and we got
Right.
10 or 20% extra for our extended replacement cost. Now we're up or getting close to $1 million of coverage to rebuild that home. And you need it, in a lot of these situations. So we are doing a lot of work trying to educate people. We do webinars, seminars. We go speak at a lot of town halls, the whole industry. So we're trying to get the message out there. We talk a lot, Triple I, to the media. And like NBC 7 in the San Francisco Bay Area has done a fantastic job. They have a couple segments and they run them often, a few times a year, that talk about how to understand the rebuilding process, the claims process. The hard part is it's not the topic you're interested in until you're interested in it. So we don't always see people paying attention to it, but I am, noticing in my community that people talk more about insurance now than they ever used to. It
I
wasn't a
bet they do.
topic on people's mind that they pay attention to. And I do live in a wildfire risk area.
Let me ask you a couple of questions about home hardening. Making your structure more fire resistant, doing the things that we know would reduce the likelihood that your home would burn down. My first question, I'll give them both to you up front. My first question is, from an actuarial standpoint, to what degree, percentage-wise, do taking these measures reduce the likelihood that your home will burn? So how effective is it? And if it is effective, then why, many policy owners would want to know, would taking those measures not, automatically reduce their premium, right? If they've taken measures to lower the risk, and the insurance companies are the ones on the hook for that risk, why don't the insurance companies take a more active role in helping homeowners reduce that risk?
Well, the good news is in the state of California, the Department of Insurance is requiring insurers moving forward to do that, to give discounts, premium discounts for mitigation on the community level as well as the individual parcel level. Now, we have to back
So
up.
that's moving. So
And
that's not currently the case.
well,
That's
there's a
future
list.
legislation.
Actually, there is a list. No, no, it's not future legislation. It's already happening. Um, but the Department of Insurance is working on their whole sustainability program, and in California, and it will be completed by the end of 24. However,
Okay.
they do have a list of companies that offer discounts on their website, and other states in the West too. So there are companies who will offer maybe a 2% discount for being a Firewise community,
Okay.
and maybe a few percent discount for being home hardening, for doing specific science-based home hardening. So we've
Okay.
actually, in the insurance industry, worked with the Institute for Business and Home Safety. We call it
Yes.
IBHS. And they put out a fantastic program called Wildfire Prepared Home. It's science-based mitigation. You have to do the whole thing though. So if you do one thing, the fire's not going to come and go, oh, they did one thing, we're not going to burn your house.
Right.
You have to make the whole home hardened. You have to clear and have the appropriate 0 to 5 feet around your perimeter. You don't have mulch, you would have rocks, you don't have a lot of plants, and if you do, they're fire resistant. All those type of things. And we find that that's one of the hardest things for people to do. They like mulch. They like to put things right up against their house that burn, and the embers get into that brush or that, plant and burn the whole house down. Um, they also get in under the eaves. And science has shown us that a lot of the homes burn from the inside out. So you'll go to an area, I've gone to a lot of wildfire sites after a disaster, and you'll see trees standing and a house burnt down. Well, why didn't the trees burn? For one, maybe they were some fire resistant trees, but for two, the embers got a lot of times to the inside of the house and burnt it from the inside out. Um, so the programs are great. The Wildfire Prepared Home, you can sign up on the website, which is wildfireprepared.org, and go through a checklist to see if you're close to qualifying. Then you pay a small fee and you get an inspection. And once you qualify, you get a certificate saying your home is wildfire prepared. They have two. They have a basic and a plus. The plus is the best. And new construction, of course, is much easier to attain this. It's a little harder on people to go back and retrofit. Although
Right. If
we're
I have to climb
seeing,
up the outside of my house to the third floor eaves, I'm going to have to get a man lift,
yeah.
right, on a rocky terrain, hilly slope. I have no idea, honestly, how I'd do it.
Well, the good news is there's a lot of companies now that are forming to help homeowners mitigate their risk on wildfire, because it is a lot of work. Seniors, less fortunate, lower income. But there's also grant programs. In California right now, we have 5 towns who got money to give to lower income people, and they get up to 40 grand per home to do projects to make them wildfire resistant. And it's in play right now. It's on the CAL FIRE website. That's an amazing program, and we need more of those type of programs. But we are seeing grant programs come through There's Firewise communities, fire safe councils, fire adapted communities. So we really encourage people to be a part of these community programs because it's not just your house, it's your neighbor's house, it's your community. If you're living in the middle of a big brush area, you may not have control over all your surroundings. So we're seeing communities really pull together and become parts of Fireways programs, fire adapted programs. And these aren't just in California, they're across the Western US. And they make a huge difference. And Steve, that's what we have to do. We have to move forward to that. So, what I tell people when they say, I did a bunch of work and I still got non-renewed or I didn't get a discount, we're still in the early stages. It's a long-term project. It's only been since really 2017 that we've seen the really large losses, but we're seeing towns like Paradise who not only um, are rebuilding to the wildfire prepared home standards, but they're also introducing ordinances that you need to build to those standards. The building codes have improved because we've seen other communities. 2017, we saw Coffee Park in the Santa Rosa area say, you don't have to rebuild to wildfire code. It's too expensive. Well, that's not helpful to the people that are rebuilding or the community because they can burn again. And we have seen in other, like we've seen a couple states, Texas, and a few communities that have burnt once, twice, three times. So, that's not a good solution. It's a challenging economic environment. Inflation has hit all of us hard. The cost to rebuild is more expensive now than ever. So, we have challenges. But I think we're seeing states step up to the plate and look at programs to help people because we all want our communities to be resilient. I wanted to tell you about another program that the Institutes, our parent company of the III, has put in place, and it's called Predict and Prevent. So, we as an insurance industry have always reacted and helped people recover, but we're moving our focus to really being able to predict, which is using the new technologies, the risk modeling to find out where are these fires going to take place? Where are the hurricanes going to take place? What are the wind patterns for wildfire? The Santa Rosa fires, Tubbs Fire in 2017 burnt the same exact area that it burnt in 1964 because of the wind patterns. So,
I see.
If you're rebuilding in that area, you need to rebuild knowing that it's probably going to come through again at some point. And if you're resistant to wildfire, you're going to have a better chance of surviving.
It feels to me, Janet, a little bit like there's the insurance equivalent of victim shaming here, right? If I go for a walk at 2 a.m. and I get mugged, they say, oh, well, you should go in a group, you should have a light, you should do this, you should do that, rather than addressing, well, maybe we should have the muggers taken off the streets and held. And now here we're taking the people who suffer the most from fires and say, well, you should have built your house this way, and you should have cut your trees down,
no,
you should have gotten rid of the mulch,
saying,
instead of saying, hey, utility grid companies, get your act together because you're causing the majority of these fires. And so why are we taking the people? What?
I don't think the insurance industry can be shamed for that. I think we, as a society, are telling Pacific Gas and Electric that they have to underground, millions of lines. And how do I know that, Steve? Because my electric bill is really expensive now while they do that work. But you know what? I want them to do that work. So
Absolutely.
I'm paying the more expensive electric bill. So
Yeah, I mean, they should have been underground to start with, right?
well, technology, the way we do things, we weren't having major wildfires. So people weren't doing that work. And I really compare it a lot of times to hurricane because hurricanes were more devastating for a much longer period of time. And so there's been a lot more work done on windproofing homes and companies and buildings and money going into the science of hurricanes for years and years and years. Once
Right.
the
Well,
wildfire
there's no
became
mitigation now.
more devastating, the money has started going into that. Same with the utility companies. They've all had to upgrade due to the risks, climate change, etc. And climate change is real. And really, climate has always changed, right? We're not in the ice age anymore. So climate is going to continue to change as a society. It's not just one stakeholder. It's not just insurance companies. We're the financial responders, and we take that very responsibly, and we've always promoted mitigation. However,
Right.
it's got to increase. We have to make it available to people. I think you said it really well. If you have to go out and climb on a ladder to a third story, you're going to need some help to do that. And I think as communities, we have to pull together and make it more available and help each other.
Yes.
We had a great inspection done where a company came out and they inspected our property for wildfire risk. And then they gave us names of contractors that we could go to locally that could come do that work for us.
I
You
see.
know, so now we have to afford it, but they gave us all the tools to do the work. And I think that
Okay.
was the missing piece, Steve. So now I think we're all more savvy. Communities have what they call a CWP, which is a community wildfire plan. Um, we have a lot more nonprofits that are coming in and saying, let us help you figure out how to do the work, because it's not just me doing it by myself, it's my whole community doing it. So I
Is
think
there
that's an important shift that we're seeing.
absolutely. Is there any type of a certification or training program that landscapers or mitigation companies can participate in so that consumers know that the work is being done up to the latest scientific standards?
There are programs. The National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, has programs for contractors, for I think landscapers. I know for contractors, they definitely do. And
That's for building contractors or for fire safe, fire
building
wise contractors?
contractors,
Okay.
any type,
But let's say,
anybody who
my
wants
home's
to
already
take
built.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, unless my house burns, I don't need a contractor, but I would like a company to come over here and, replace, let's say, wooden mulch with
Mm-hmm.
rocks, put the eave guards up, trim up all the trees to whatever, level
Well,
of height.
we actually
How do I know
do.
they know what they're doing?
Well, first of all, we ask that you use licensed contractors. And so you are using contractors, and they do have many programs that they can take through NFPA. It's nfpa.org. You can find the assessment or the programs that they can take. You can have trained individuals assess your property. Uh,
Okay.
there's a lot of programs in place, and that's why it's good to be a part of these community firewise type programs, because they have all that information. So
I see.
it's a little hard when you're just doing it by yourself and don't have anybody else to talk to. But if you
Sure.
work with these community programs, the fire adapted programs as well, they're going to help you find all those right people. And that is a process. that we look at really, especially with landscapers. They're putting
Yeah,
up fencing. Don't put wood fencing right up to the home. Have an iron gate or a non-combustible gate attaching, because the wooden fencing is like a wick to burn your house down.
that's right.
All those
That's right.
type of
It's the
things.
artery for bringing fire through a whole
Right,
neighborhood.
right. So I think as the public demands more from contractors, we also work with big box chains, Lowe's, Home Depot, to really try to educate the people they're selling to. It's a major program that is going on now. But again, it's only really been in the last 10 years. And these things take a long time to really infiltrate all the way down to the home buyer, homeowner level. But we're working on it, and we so appreciate people like you having a podcast and getting information out to people. It makes a huge difference.
Thank you, Janet. If people want to get more information at the both, individuals looking to harden their homes or to learn more about, what type of coverage they have versus what type of coverage they need, what are the best sources of information for that?
Well, III.org, so that's our triple I website, has quite a bit of information. We have a toolkit. Then wildfireprepared.org has the program to harden your home. Firewise USA has a great website that you can go to find out where or how to start your community on a Firewise USA community. In California, we have readyforwildfire.org, but anybody can look at that. And I know
Right?
Colorado has some great programs. Washington, Oregon, they all have a lot of good information on websites, on their Department of Insurance websites, etc. Because we really are trying to get the word out. And there's a lot of webinars. The key is you have to take some time to do it. And we're
Yes.
all busy, but we're not too busy to be safe, right?
Yeah, that's right. Although, I saw a picture on LinkedIn the other day, and the governor was standing in front of a big sign and said, "Ready for wildfire." And I thought, really? You know,
Mhm.
thinking that you're ready is the surest way to be proven wrong. And I don't, I think that, aware of wildfire, aware of the risk, doing the most we can, but remaining vigilant for wildfire. But I think
So,
thinking that you're ready, could give people a false sense of security. I've done everything I
well,
can. I hardened my home, blah, blah.
it,
I don't
it
have to worry.
actually
And you
it
do have to worry.
actually helps you feel. I mean, being ready and prepared is a great thing. But what the real terminology that we use now and the fire adapted community program really introduced this is called living with wildfire.
There you go.
So, living with wildfire means that you do prepare, and you can use the word worry or just use the word, concern, trying to be safe, however you feel good about it. But living with wildfire is the key because it happens every year. It's not like a hurricane where you can fix your roof and it's not going to blow off and you're prepared. It's every year the brush grows back. And if it rains, which we need water, then we have more brush. So you have more to clear. So we call it living with wildfire and
I
fire
love that.
adapted communities. And I think those terms really speak to your point that it's a continual effort to be safe. And it does take vigilance, and it takes determination. And that's why working with your community is more effective than just doing it by yourself.
Right. Because if I do all the mitigation requirements for my house or recommendations, but my neighbor doesn't, they put my house and the rest of the neighborhood at risk.
They do. Yeah.
It's much like disease spread, right? If some people
Mm-hmm.
choose not to get protected from diseases, then they risk, they're much more likely to spread them.
Right.
Fire's very similar.
And fire doesn't have boundaries. They don't go, oh, I'm not going to burn Steve's house, because, you're still going to have a better chance of survival if you do the mitigation at your own house. But you need the community.
Let me ask an expanded question. When we talk about Insurance Information Institute, your organization, are we just talking about, home and auto, or are you providing information on health insurance, other types of insurance that are out there?
The Insurance Information Institute works with property and casualty, which is home, auto, commercial, and life insurance. But we don't work with health insurance.
Well, that probably makes things a heck of a lot easier for you.
Sorry.
Right. You're dealing with, physical risks, not less than human behavior, because it really is a concern related to wildfire risk of the smoke inhalation issues. And I wonder if we're going to see liability, if I didn't take mitigation measures on my house and the smoke causes damage to my neighbor, to their property, or to their health. I think that ultimately we're going to see legal actions having more impact on people's behavior, right? If you find out that you are financially responsible for the damage you cause to your neighbors or your neighborhood as a result of your own fire negligence, I think people would pay more attention.
I'm not really too versed on that. I will say that the legal actions drive up all our costs of insurance, and eventually we wouldn't be able to afford it. So I would hope that that particular scenario does not come into play. I would hope that people take mitigation seriously, and communities take mitigation seriously, and we have less fires and less issues with smoke inhalation.
Yeah, I think the nice thing about fires versus hurricanes is, you can actually do something to prevent them happening in the first place, rather than just being left to mitigate or to harden against them.
We do, yes.
Yeah,
and
like
that's
really encouraging.
Projects that you're working on with better ways to put out the unwanted fires. We know we need some fire. We understand fire better now and the science of it. So it's nature's way of cleaning land. And actually hurricanes are too. But like you said, we have more control over wildfire, and so controlled burns tend to be much better and less devastating than the out of control wildfires.
Well, I think we may end up with the technology soon to do controlled hurricanes.
That would
pre-wind the area.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens. Janet, I cannot thank you enough for joining me to run through this a little bit, because I know insurance really is, a tough area for a lot of people. They don't want to talk about it, and once they do talk about it, they still don't know what they're talking about. So the work that you're doing is hugely helpful, and I really appreciate the work and taking the time to come explain it.
Well, thank you, and thanks so much for having me today, Steve.
You bet. We'll review this some more. I'm sure we'll be revisiting this as legislation changes and trends in the industry change. I hope you'll come back and explain them again.
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's Janet Ruiz from III, the Insurance Information Institute. Hit up their website. There's lots of good information on there to help you make sure you're getting the insurance that you need, not just the insurance that you're required to have. Thanks for joining us. We're here on the Fire Break. We're sponsored by Team Wildfire, developing new techniques and technology for reducing firefighter deaths and property losses. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Take care.